Hey, bike fans. Figure I'd give you this Vittoria Open Corsa long-term review. I don't like to review a tire that I've only, ridden one set or just done a few rides on it because that's just not fair. This is a real world kind of look at how I did with the Corsas. I still have one set on my training bike, and the treadwear is fine, but I had some other issues. They didn't quite live up to what I'd hoped. They're good at some things and they're terrible at other things. So let's get right to it. In terms of grip, and they were fantastic. The traction was as good as I used to race on the CX, the Corsa CX, which was the main kind of clincher race tire from Vittoria back when they ran a few different tires, and they've kind of reduced their line to just a few. And the CX, just legendary grip, but the traction, man, this was just like it. It was like being on the old CX. So traction, A+. Suppleness, which just kind of the perception of speed. I mean, you can't really measure this, but you know when you're on a tire that feels good, and this felt just as good as the CX. The cotton carcass is just fantastic. I'm a huge fan of the feel of the cotton carcass. That's about where the good ends on these. I guess they look great. The gum wall or skin wall, whatever you want to call it, it's making a comeback, and I don't mind that as an old school dude. That this is kind of reminiscent of what we used to roll. I dig it. They look fantastic. I guess I could say tread wear is good, but as you'll see here in a minute, the tires haven't lasted long enough to see if the tread wear is good. If you ever rode on the old CX, you would know that the tread wear was legendarily horrible. Bellow dog getting in the frame there. But they were such a supple, awesome race day only tire. I would race them. But if you had a situation, I remember one particular race, I had to lock up the brakes because there was a crash in front of me, and then I think I ran into somebody. Just ran into the cassette of the bike in front of me just a little bit. Didn't even go down. Was totally fine. Didn't tweak any wheels or anything like that. Both those tires were toast. The huge flat spot from just locking up once. Granted, we're on Texas chip seal, but they didn't last. But the treadwear, I didn't race on these a whole bunch. I just had some travel issues and stuff over the summer, and there's not a lot of road racing in Texas in the summer. We race mostly in the spring, so I didn't get to race these a whole lot. Couple crits, state championship road race. I rode them out there, and I flatted out. And that's my first complaint. These just don't have the flat protection to be a training tire. On dry days, they seem to be pretty good. But where I ran into trouble is I feel like, and again, I rode through 3 sets of these on 2 different bikes. I put them on my training bike and my race bike. I ran 1 set on the race bike, burned through those, and I'm on my 2nd set. Currently still riding them on my training bike. And I feel like I got a flat tire every time it rained. So these tend to not do very well with the little pokey flats, those little tiny slivers of glass or wires that you get on the road. So I got a lot of those kind of flats, not the dramatic, explosive, drain all your air in just a few seconds flats, but the little kind of whispery ones. I got those all the time, and in the wet, those little pieces of wire and glass will kind of stick to your tire, and you increase your chance of getting a flat. And it was just a drag. I was getting a flat every freaking time it rained, sometimes several. So that sucked. In terms of cuts and things, I will say these in the miles I put on these did better than the GP4s, which has always been my complaint with the GP4. I love the tire, the tread wear is great, the traction is good, they're quite supple. Hey, Zello dog, out the way. They're supple, they're good race tire. It's a good everything tire. It's a good race tire. But my one complaint is they cut. the sidewalls, the way they make them supple is rather than using like a cotton, they use whatever synthetics they're using, and they lower the thread count so they get a supple sidewall, but it's vulnerable on the GP4. I cut them. I've never worn a GP4 out. I've only retired them because they've cut, and that was my hope with these. Bicycle rolling resistance gave them about the same, almost the exact same grade as the GP4. So speed was going to be good. I expected them to have more traction than GP4. It felt like that was the case. They did have better traction, if only slightly, but they did definitely cut less than the GP4. I didn't cut any of these, with the exception of this. You'll see this right here, which is maybe a Texas thing. I actually ran over a 22 shell casing that was in the road, and it just like a whole bunch. But that would have shredded any tire. That was the only catastrophic flat I had on these. Luckily I was going slow. I was just rolling away from the stop sign, didn't see it, and hole punch. But they didn't cut, which was great. But they didn't do well against the little fine flats. And then here's where these became just a deal breaker. Let's see if I can find it here. This tire has it. The bead gave out on 2 tires. You can see the bead starting to fray here. But you can actually see it. It's hard to see when it's not on the bike, not on the tire and inflated, but the bead was actually starting to give out. It was pulling out of there. Was it this one? Yeah, there we go. So you can actually see here that this is separating right here. And I don't run a high pressure. I run kind of up-to-date pressure. I weigh 180 pounds, and I run the rear tire at about 100, 105 PSI. I run the front at around 95. So, it just started separating. That was bulging. So the bead, I didn't have it blow out on me, but it was enough where I took this off the bike. I stopped riding it. And this tire had tons of tread life left, but it's toast. And for an expensive tire, that's a drag. So I think this is my verdict is the Open Corsa, this new Vittoria Corsa G Plus, is not a daily driver. This is a race day only, dry conditions, good roads. I wouldn't race this in the wet, and I wouldn't race this on dirty roads. Fantastic traction, fantastic suppleness, definitely cut resistant, and the tread wear is good, but micro flats and something's wrong. Maybe it's just the batch I got. I got 4 tires, so 1 pair from one supplier, and then one set from a different supplier. So it came from 2 different places. That second set is now on my bike right now. Maybe it was a bad batch. I don't normally have the time to send this back or whatever, but maybe I'll ask the shop, see what they can do. But yeah, this is not a daily drive. This is a race day tire, good condition. So this is your crit tire. You want to hook up and corner like the old CX. This is the tire to get after. But other than that, if you're a GP4 person, stay on the GP4. For me, on my training bike, I'm going back to the Rubino, which is just a legendary training tire, and I'll keep racing on the GP4 on my race bike. So, ride on.